So that song ended oddly perfect. I went for the opportunity there. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Touchback Tuesday, post week 11. Okay, all right. So, a couple teams got their butts kicked this week, and maybe they're
Couple
not so
surprises.
real, right? Couple surprises there. But everything else kind of business as usual, right?
Pretty much, yeah. You expected teams to win. Yeah. It was only a few exciting, not expected outcomes this week. I think the rest were kind of felt like we were in the bow of the season, if you will. There's no excitement of, oh, we're only 4 games in, and there's no excitement of, well, it's now or never because your season's over if you lose. Although for a few teams that we're going to discuss tonight, I think that is the case. But yeah, it was pretty much par for the course. Nothing overly unexpected happened, I'd say.
Yeah, probably one of the most unexpected was the close Colts game. Colts were winning most of the game,
They were all the way down
and
to the wire.
you can give me credit whenever you'd like. I
We
just
did talk about that last
right.
week.
Yeah. The Colts, I mean, they're one game away from being back in the conversation for a playoff team, right? And came up short on that one. Just painful. What else we got? Cowboys smoke the Vikings, not even close.
Oh,
Ugly.
that one was. Oh man, and that game was on the TV here. It was just the 4 o'clock game because the Giants and the Bills and the Jets all played at 1. But that was a 4 o'clock game scheduled for TV here, and they actually switched it to the Bengals
Right.
Steelers game before right after halftime. They were like, okay.
I don't understand the
I've never
switching.
seen that before.
I don't
I've
like the
never seen
switching
that before.
because you're telling me I have to pay DirecTV to get the NFL Sunday ticket if I want to watch these other games.
Well,
But if my team's getting blown out by 37 points, you'll just give me that for free. So what you're telling me is you're capable of giving me all the market games. So I don't understand why they do that. It seems like
it
if it's
was a
local,
weird.
it's local. We watch the whole game, right?
Yeah, I've never seen that happen before where it's like, okay, this isn't the local team, and it was the national game for the week, but
Maybe that has
it's
something to do
not
with it. National
entertaining, so we're just going to give you the next best thing. And at that time, the Steelers Bengals game was close, so that was the one that came on. And the Steelers are the next closest to this area, so it would make sense that.
Okay, so
that
you're
would
thinking
be
they
the
went from
next
national game to local
team.
game.
Right. The more exciting national game to, okay, this isn't really exciting anymore. Let's put the local game back on. But I've never seen them do that. I didn't even know the NFL could do that.
Right.
Like, honestly,
Well,
I didn't know. At the end of games, when they're like,
right.
okay, there's still 5 minutes in broadcast and that game just went to overtime. We're going to show you the ending of that game too after the other game that was on ends. But never, this isn't entertaining anymore. So let's change the channel. Change the game.
Right. Just abandoning the game at all.
Yeah,
I
I've
mean,
never.
'cause
Yeah.
if you're a Cowboys fan watching that game, you want to at least finish it.
I know, right? You're like, hey, my team's doing well. I want to see it. And my brother and my sister are Cowboys fans. I'm sure they wanted to watch it. So they were like, what the hell? You took our team off the air, even though we're winning by 40 points.
Yeah, but I mean, the Bengals Steelers game was actually really entertaining.
Yeah.
Steelers
back
really
and forth.
they brought it. It was back and forth. Offense kind of came alive a little bit. Kenny Pickett looked pretty good.
Yeah.
Overall. More on that later, but it is Thanksgiving week. We're thankful for our listeners here early in our season. So thank you very much. Appreciate the subscriptions to this point. Appreciate the likes to this point. We're going to keep grinding. We're going to keep being consistent, and hopefully we get some feedback from the field. But what do you got planned for this week?
So we went to Kathy's parents this weekend because they're going out of town. And on Thursday, we're going to my mom's for dinner, which is a big thing with my family. Most of the family comes over for dinner and dessert, and watching football. Obviously, it's part of Thanksgiving Day, so we all pitched in for different things. Different food. My mom makes most of it though, so we bought corn and sweet potatoes to make candied yams, and
Nice.
My mom was like, yeah, just bring it and I'll make it. And she pretty much preps it all during the week and then, cooks what she can ahead of time. And then come Thursday, the turkey and, prep the final prep. And then it's just dig in, big long table, and the meal is ready. You make your plate and you dig in.
Yep. I went and bought a smoker so I
Why,
could smoke the turkey this year. Looking forward to that.
Ooh,
I've always done it in the past
smoking.
few years. I've been smoking a turkey, but I've been doing it with a buddy. We kind of
You had a
do it
smoker?
together.
Uh-huh.
But now I went and got my own. So now I'm testing out chicken, testing out pork. So I feel like when you turn 30, it's World War II or barbecue, right? I've kind of done all the World War II stuff. So now moving on to barbecue.
That's right. You got to.
So anybody have any tips on that, please let me know. But yeah, I smoked some organic chicken drumsticks today, and it was great. Olive oil, a little paprika, and
simple but delicious.
right,
Huh?
cooked it up good, but it wasn't that hard. Like everyone, you read stuff online, and everyone's giving their best effort in the grilling blog or whatever pops up on Google, and it just doesn't. It's like overcomplicated. You know what I mean? You set it to the temperature, and you put it in for the amount of time that you look up. Usually, it's like 2 hours or whatever. But it just seems like people are trying way too hard to impress everyone on the internet. So yeah, so that's what I got going on this week with Thanksgiving. Looking forward to it.
Nice. Are you going over, or you bring in the?
So we have divorced parents on both sides. So
Yeah.
Yep. So we have we're combining them, but we have one big Thanksgiving Thursday, and then one big Thanksgiving on Saturday. So not too bad per the circumstance, but
That's good.
Yeah, I'll be pretty done with Thanksgiving. Two's enough.
Two is
Christmas
plenty.
is worse. We'll get to that later.
Yeah. That's a good one too.
Yeah,
but we we got lucky this year with her parents going out of town that we didn't have to do two full Thanksgivings, but just the one, and had a nice dinner with her family this weekend. So yeah, looking forward to Thursday though. Thanksgiving is always a fun time.
For sure. Yeah, there's less drama. All right, let's get back to football here. Made and missed. Anthony, your best bets of the week here.
Yeah, a couple of letdowns, a couple of easy winners, and as was the case a couple of weeks ago, one that's still on the line tonight. It seems like whenever I pick the Monday night game, it is the make or break game, right? So obviously San Francisco has yet to play, -6. That is going to be the determining factor for the week here, because unfortunately my 3 on I guess it's the left side of your screen. If you're looking at your screen, it's the Minnesota Vikings, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Kansas City Chiefs. All big L's for me.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota, oh my gosh, what a game.
+1.5 was
they were getting points at home. I said, I expect them to win the game. They were due for a beatdown, and they got one. So, that happened. But then we go to the Eagles. You already mentioned that the Colts, were able to kind of have the lead that whole game, and luckily the Eagles came back and won it still, but not -6.5. And then there's Kansas City, which was the worst possible outcome, and the one that makes me the angriest, only because either beat the spread or lose. Don't lose and don't win the game and lose the spread, because I lost twice basically, right? As a Bills fan, I want Kansas City to lose as much as possible, but they come back and score, but they don't beat the 5.5 point spread. So 0 for 3 on the left side of the screen. However, the Washington Commanders and the Carolina Panthers +13, both winners there. And hopefully San Francisco tonight, if they're able to win by at least 6, then it'll be a 3-3 week. That'll make it my second even week, and still only one losing week out of 11. So that would be quite impressive up to this point. So obviously we are 2-3 as we speak right now, with tonight to be determined to see if it is another losing week, my second losing week, or another break-even week. That'll be my second break-even week. So either way, we're doing okay, folks. The percentage on the year is going to stay right at 65 and above. So that's a great place to be. And we'll save the 6-0 for this week, I guess, huh?
Right, yeah. It'll happen eventually. Maybe it's
got to happen.
18. Maybe it's next week. Who knows? But let's get into these games a little bit here. Starting with your 6. Panthers at the Ravens. Baker Mayfield back in the saddle, and just didn't look great.
Baker being Baker,
but Ravens here, I expected them to score 30.
Right. What happened, right? It was 3-3 a ton of the game here, right? Up until I think the fourth quarter, it was pretty close game. And Carolina actually had a chance to come back and score and take the lead. And that was one of the drives where Baker threw an interception. I think Baker's stat line, I was going to look it up. I remember seeing it scroll when I was watching the Bills game that he was like 5 for 7 for 28 yards. I was just laughing. Like, if that isn't the best Baker Mayfield stat ever, like, ooh, I've got 5 completions, but they've done absolutely nothing with those completions. So it wasn't a great day for Baker. I don't know why they put him out there. I'm pretty sure that they should have, done anything, put anybody else out there, right? I mean, why at this point? 196 yards, 2 interceptions. So he's hurting you way more than he's helping you at that point with those interceptions. And
Yeah, nowhere else to go.
the one I saw was bad, right? So put in Sam Darnold, put in Joe Schmo, put in anybody but Baker at this point.
Yeah, I think we'll probably see Sam Darnold at some point. I mean, because it's just a evaluation, like you've tried all this other stuff. We know Baker ain't it. PJ Walker ain't it. Might as well try Sam Darnold, right?
Something has to change here. And they've been playing pretty good. I mean, it was 3-3 up until the fourth quarter. So once again, you lost because Baker Mayfield was your quarterback, even with this crap team. You lost because Baker Mayfield was your quarterback. Again, what I said in the preseason, Baker's your quarterback. You're going to lose more games than you win if it goes on his shoulders. This one was on his shoulders. He lost it for him. That's all there is to it. And his career hopefully is over because I'm sick of talking about him and telling you all how much he sucks.
He'd be back up somewhere, but Ravens get the win as expected. The plus 13, that was a huge
held off.
But,
I knew by the fourth quarter, I'm like, oh, okay, this is good.
Right, so that was a huge one. Let's get on to the Commanders 23, Texans 10. Again, the Commanders starting to get
in the right direction.
Starting to get a little momentum for the playoffs here.
Yeah,
we're gonna have a 8-pack of Eastern
divisions,
playoff teams.
Wow,
that AFC, NFC, all
that would be
teams.
wild if they all made them. And right now, that might be the direction it's trending in because the Commanders have looked really good the last few weeks, and they're only getting better as the weeks go on here. Now, they played the Texans, an inferior team, but they scored on offense. They scored on defense. That Chase Young is back, but he didn't play in this game. He was inactive. He's going to most likely play in the next game. So their defense is only going to get better. Their offense is clicking. Tyler Heineke has really found the groove with this offense. They have the running backs that they use are great. I mean, it's really more of a surprise that they find themselves in this situation where they have to claw themselves back than, this roster living up to its potential. So they did what they had to against the Texans here, and it paid off for me with the W with picking them -3.
Yeah, I'm not sure who would have the head-to-head between San Francisco and the Commanders, but if San Francisco loses, they'll be, let's see, 5-5. So I guess it wouldn't matter. So the Commanders they're 6-5 currently. Commanders would take that 7th spot in the wild card for the time being. So credit to them. Chase Young's back. There's momentum.
Yeah, it's building.
The problem is these NFC East teams have to play each other, and that might hurt the Commanders along the way.
That's true. I think the Giants are going to fall more to earth, though, and that might open the door for the Commanders.
Okay. All right. Interesting conversation there. We'll get on that. And the Texans, number 1 seed or number 1 pick in the draft, number 1 seed.
Absolutely. They have to at this point. I mean, I don't see them stringing any amount of wins. I think the next lowest is 3, right? So I don't think they could.
Well, the Texans, we'll be rooting for them this week as they face Miami as Bills fans.
Maybe they'll get their second win. All right.
Yeah. Jerry Hughes over there. Save us, kid.
Yeah.
Help us. All right. Number 4 for you on your picks, the maiden miss. We had the 49ers Cardinals yet to be determined, right? Going on here in 45 minutes or so. Mexico City game. International again. The NFL is big on these international games this year.
Yeah, they've really been marketing to that international crowd.
I remember was it the Raiders and maybe the Patriots that played in Mexico City last time? I can't remember exactly. But I remember it being tons of fans. I remember big fences and things like that. It looked like people were trying to break into the stadium, but really it's just, I think, just the fence on the stadium. But yeah,
Yeah, it
pretty
should be a
crazy.
fun one to watch. In terms of the it being international, lots of injuries in this one for the Cardinals. Kyler Murray is out. They've got a cornerback out, 2 offensive linemen out. It's going to be, I think, ugly for the Cardinals. This game is kind of working out the reason why I picked the 49ers, knowing that Kyler Murray was banged up and they have injuries. We'll see what they look like. Man, if they win again without Kyler Murray, something's got to be done.
Yikes.
You got to
Yikes.
get him out of there because, even with these injuries,
You
if
just
they
paid
find
him.
a way to beat a good team, but they can trade him because he's
Yeah, a lot of teams out there
something's
probably
got to
would
be
like a
done.
guy like that. But
I know.
yeah, that would be
If
that'd be
Colt
pretty wild.
McCoy can do more in this offense than the quarterback that you're paying, then you have problems. You do. So
Well,
I fully expect the 49ers to win this. So
yeah.
they have a really good defense. They're playing mostly backups, even though, the Cardinals have their 2-headed monster receivers back. It's probably not going to be enough, to
Right.
overcome that
Kyler out.
49ers defense.
Yeah, I
And,
just don't see it. But I think I did pick the Cardinals. But at the time I thought Kyler was playing.
right.
Colt McCoy can hold his own, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you can run the Arizona style offense effectively with Colt McCoy.
Yeah.
But
Not as
prove
many
me
deep
wrong,
passes.
right?
Yeah.
It's really designed for Kyler Murray and his scramble ability. And say what you want about how effective that is. That's what it's designed for. Yeah. So 49ers here, good opportunity for them. I think you think it's a must win for the 49ers. This is a divisional game. It matters. The gap's not very big in the NFC West.
I wouldn't go as far as to call it a must win because it's still close. And I think in the end, they're going to win the division anyway. But, and these division games are always competitive, but I do expect them to win. So in a way, it's a should win, I'll call it. It's a solid should win. And if you don't, it's a disappointment for sure. But if you don't win, it's not like panic, all hands on deck. What are we going to do? It's just, okay, the next one is going to be a must win.
So if you win, they'll be tied with Seattle for the division lead. If they lose, the 49ers will be 5-5, back to 500. Arizona would be 5-6. So yeah, that gap, the pressure would really be on if the 49ers lose this one. I think there's a good argument to say this is a borderline must win for the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they play their best, I think, too. So should be a good game.
Right. They're going to play their style football, run the ball. Hopefully it's another game where Jimmy Garoppolo has 0 touchdowns and they get the win because that seems to be the trend. I'd be happy. My fantasy team would be happy if Christian McCaffrey does the whole running touchdown, passing touchdown, receiving touchdown thing again. That would be awesome.
Yeah. And yeah, the 49ers 10-2 when Jimmy G throws no touchdowns. I saw that in NFL memes too. So good.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to number 3 here. We had the Eagles, Colts. Eagles pull out the close last-minute touchdown here. Nobody stops Jalen Hurts from running the ball into the end zone. It seemed like there was a huge gap in that last play there. How about the Colts, though? Good effort. Gave it hell.
Yeah, but I think it's still showing you what this team is and what its limits are, right? Matt Ryan couldn't get it done. I mean, what did he have? I think his stat line, he had no touchdowns, 213 yards on 23 completions. I mean, that's just not going to get it done. And they want to ride the back of Jonathan Taylor. And they did. That's why they were in the position they were in this game. And their defense is okay. But in the end, when you have playmakers, dynamic playmakers like the Eagles do on both sides of the ball, those teams are the teams that win. And right now, the Colts just don't have that edge to me. They don't have those difference makers, those playmakers, those head-to-head. It's going to be this guy to change it. And in this case, it was Jalen Hurts running into the end zone. Boom, game over.
Yeah, fair. Colts now 3 games outside of the 7 seed, the wild card spot, behind the Chargers and the Jets now outside of the playoff hunt.
But Jeff Saturday has this team playing, huh?
Hey, they're 1-1. You know, we'll see.
And it was a close game against
it was a close game. They gave a good
best
effort.
team in the NFC. Yeah.
Let's see. Colts coming up their opponents coming up this next couple weeks here. We got the Steelers, Cowboys. Looks like Monday night versus Steelers, and then Sunday night football versus the Cowboys. So that'll be 2 more challenges, right? The Vikings after that. Chargers, no easy team. I mean, that'll be a good game, I think. Chargers, Colts. But yeah, that's next 4 games for them. So it looks pretty tough, I'd say. I think it's fair to say we're going to write them off, right?
Yeah. I think this is that was it
Yep.
a while ago for them when they lost.
Like we said last week, I think this was the opportunity for the Colts to get back in the conversation. They come up short, disappointing, but I think at this point they're out. Chiefs 30, Chargers 27. Again, nobody's better than Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce at winning games late. They're just nobody better. I mean, we could always argue that Tom Brady was better in those 1 or 2 minute drives, right? The last drive of the game, but these guys just make it look easy.
Nobody's better at losing games than the Chargers, right? Especially close games, right? They had that big one at the end of the season where the Raiders got into the playoffs, and now they've got this continually. It seems the Raiders are in this position where it's like, oh, all they need to do is hold them, and then they can't, and then they lose the game, right? They blow a lead in this one. I mean, you had the Chiefs where you wanted them. You know that he's only got one guy he's thrown to. Kelce had all 3 touchdowns in this game, right? So it was, I mean,
right.
Sadly, more of a poor display of the Chargers and, a pathetic breakdown.
Chargers
of the
played them tough.
They did, but you gotta hold it. Like, this was your game to win. If you're going to play that well, you played one of your best games of the season and you don't get a win. That tells me you're done. Your season is over. Go home. You can't win the games that matter. Go home. You suck. So, I mean, it just sucks because they should have won this game. And I picked the Chiefs, obviously, in my pick 6 to win by more than 5.5. I thought the Chiefs were going to dominate them. The fact that they stayed in the game and kept it close and played their hearts out for 3 3/4 of a game doesn't matter because you lost.
You're right. It absolutely stings. They're right there. Again, this seems like it happens all the time, right? With the Chargers.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Chiefs.
what I mean.
Yeah,
in the
Chargers
divisional
fall
games,
to 5-5. Chiefs remain on top at 8-2. But yeah, this is always going to be the conversation. Justin Herbert versus Pat Mahomes. Clearly, that gap is bigger than people anticipated, right? The Chiefs are still the Chiefs. Nothing's really changed, Tyreek Hill or not. I still think they're extremely capable. Interesting that Kadarius Toney gets no touches in this game with Juju Smith-Schuster out and McCole Hardman out. But Chargers starting to get healthy too. We saw Keenan Allen. I mean, I feel like if Mike Williams stuck around, it could have been a little different.
Yeah, he only had like one catch.
Early. Right? Yep. Had a great catch, but then gets
another injury,
re-injured. So they just seem a little one-dimensional. They want to run the ball. They want to check it down. So yeah, I got to get some more talent in there. Got a defensive coach, right? Does that matter? I don't really know.
And you give up 30 points. I mean, that's the defense lost this game. Like I said, all you have to do is guard Travis Kelce. It was just a hard thing to do, right? I'm not saying
nobody can do that. Everyone tries that. No one.
Everybody knows that he's going to get his. But
I think maybe Matt Milano's the only guy that can
put them in the situation.
He's even been burned a bunch of times.
Yeah, you put them in the situations where I mean, it was just again good win for the Chiefs, but worse loss for the Chargers.
Yeah, for sure. That one stings. Even worse loss for the Minnesota Vikings. Cowboys 40.
I don't think so. I mean,
3.
Worse on the scoreboard, yes. Worse in terms of your morale and standings.
Not just so embarrassing, though, right?
Yeah, really. At home, right? This is in Minnesota.
Right.
And the Cowboys just dominated them.
Do you think little taste of the playoffs here or
no?
A game, a down game.
Yep, I think the Vikings were due for this, right? They're riding this high, they're blinging, they're rocking out on the plane, and guess what? Back to reality. This is the NFL is a competitive league. Any team can beat any day, any team can beat any other on any given Sunday, and on this Sunday, the Cowboys punched the Vikings in the face. All right, so we saw the Cowboys come out flat last week and lose to the Green Bay Packers. Now they come out and they're on fire. Does this mean the Cowboys are a better team than the Vikings? No, not even for a little bit, right? They came out in this one strong. They got a big lead. the Vikings fell flat. Everything went wrong for the Vikings, and they needed a game like this to kind of say, okay, we're not impenetrable, right? We can lose. And when we lose, we know why. We need to look back and say, we need to be more prepared. We need to get re-energized. And I think it'll help the Vikings moving forward to be better prepared for better opponents like the Cowboys, especially coming off a big win with the Bills. The Vikings were really riding that high, probably got a little too cocky, and the Cowboys punched them in the mouth here.
Right.
And it was
the Cowboys are good, right?
They're
being overlooked.
they had like
because
10 sacks in the not even three quarters
Micah
that I got to
Parsons
watch.
is on a different level, right? Tony
pass rush
Pollard
is
is an
insane.
emerging star for Dallas.
In the pass game too, they were mostly running with Zeke Elliott, and Pollard was wide open on 2 touchdowns. I mean, just got open, threw him the ball like 10 yards, and he ran 80
Tony
for
Pollard's
the touchdown.
He's looking great,
sick.
and Ezekiel Elliott, comes in and he'll punch it in the goal line. It just works, right? What they're doing right now, I think they're just as good as the Minnesota Vikings on all aspects.
Sure. And if that were a playoff game, I would expect it to be a close matchup, but I would probably still take the Vikings as the better overall team.
All right, so let's look at the NFC.
Vikings
playoff
also lost one of their offensive tackle early on in that game, which was huge.
That hurts. That hurts for any team.
First drive.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you should lose by 37.
No, doesn't excuse that for sure. But it certainly meant that they were able to get 10 sacks because that pass rush was coming at him every play.
That's disruptive. And Kirk Cousins is not one of those guys that can escape pressure.
No.
Right? It's got to be quick release.
Play from the pocket. Yep.
And I see him get trapped too much. But yeah, new NFC playoff picture here. We have the Eagles as the 1. Obviously, Vikings remain at 2. Seattle 3. Buccaneers 4. All those stay the same. Dallas now in the 5 seed. The Giants at the 6 seed. And the 49ers pending the game here in 20 minutes. Currently at the 7 seed. The Commanders 1 game out. Falcons win. They're 5-6. A close second outside of the playoff hunt here. And then the Detroit Lions with their 3rd win, tied with the Arizona Cardinals at 4-6. Again, we'll see how that turns out. And that's basically the teams in the hunt. So my question to you, who are the real ones in the NFC? We saw Dallas embarrass the Vikings, kind of surprised a lot of people. But I think this is how the NFC is, right? There's no Kansas City team that just dominates. It's all, anything can happen at any Sunday. And it really, the momentum's going to matter when we get to playoff time. What you eat that week's going to matter. There's just no dominant team is what I'm saying. So any team can beat any team, I feel like.
It is going to be close in the NFC, and we've been saying this all year, that there's no runaway team. But if you're asking me who are the legit contenders, the Eagles are definitely legit contenders.
Sure.
The Minnesota Vikings are definitely legit contenders. The Cowboys are definitely legit contenders. And at this point, I'll put the 49ers in there as legit contenders. The others still have a lot to prove in my book. Before the playoffs start, those are the 4 teams that I expect to be the final 4 in the NFC, right? And to be able to beat one another, right? They can all beat one another, I think, which makes you a contender.
We should talk about the 49ers a little more because I also picked them when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were down. And look, when you pick a Super Bowl team early in the season, you're stuck with them. So Tampa Bay is still my Super Bowl team.
Yes. Yeah.
Am I confident that's going to happen? No. But as a secondary, I lean towards the 49ers, and now I'm starting to lose my confidence in that, right? So are we too high on them? Do we just give them the benefit of the doubt because
they're
Shanahan's a good coach?
Exactly. He's a good coach. They're a good team. They got Christian McCaffrey. They're building in the right direction. Even though they might lose 2 games before the playoffs start, they're still a team that can beat any of those other teams. Regardless of how well Seattle plays going into the playoffs, I'm not convinced that they can beat these other good teams in the playoffs. The 49ers, we know they can. If they play good defense and play their style offense, they can beat anybody on any day at any time.
They can also lose to anybody at any
certainly
day.
Exactly, but they're still a true contender because they can. Again, those other teams, if Washington makes the playoffs, if the Falcons make the playoffs, if the Giants make the playoffs, those teams are going to lose. They're not real contenders. They're not good enough rosters to compete with the rosters of those
49ers are good on paper, and I got it. I got it.
They have a good coach.
They had a rookie quarterback, and weird stuff happened there too, but they lost to the Bears. They lost to the Broncos. They got smoked by the Chiefs. They beat the Rams twice, which we know the Rams are not good. They're very bad. Right? So they're really the only credible wins to this point. And look, you can only win the games on your schedule. You need more opportunities. They beat the Seahawks and they beat the Chargers. Those are 2 credible wins. They lost to the Falcons. I mean, they just don't. They're now kind of in that Minnesota Vikings storyline of I need to see them beat a good team.
Fair enough. But we already know they're a good roster, right? And they're in position. It's not like it's the Chargers where we're like, oh, this is a really good roster, but they just continue to lose and they're not in the picture right now. 49ers are there, and that's why we're including them as a team who are legit contenders.
Right, and if you look ahead here, they don't really have a credible team to beat.
I mean, no, their division is.
I mean, okay, they got Miami coming up, which doesn't really matter. It's AFC team, NFC, AFC.
Still should be a good
Tampa Bay, December 11th. That's 3 weeks from now. That's probably a good opportunity for them. And credit to them for having an easy schedule. If they do make it in and they don't get any credible wins, good. You're your playoff team. You beat the teams you're supposed to beat. But are we? I'm just not. I need to see more from them to actually feel that confidence. That okay, even though they're my second Super Bowl pick, I feel good about that. I don't feel good about that right now. I think I need to see more from the passing game on them.
I think that's fair.
All right. What else? What other teams? Cowboys, legitimate, right? Who's not legitimate?
I just kind of rattled them off in my answer there, didn't I? So like the Giants, for example, they're not legitimate. They've had a great run. They're probably going to make the playoffs based on their schedule and where they are in the standings right now. Maybe as a wild card team, obviously because of the Eagles. So they're a playoff team. They should celebrate that because they were never expected to be a playoff team this year. And they cannot beat any of the other playoff teams, no matter who their matchup is. I do not think they even have a chance against Tampa Bay, one of the worst division winners, against, another wild card team, should it come to that. I just don't see them competing with any of those top teams. Same goes for a Atlanta Falcons, right? If they make the playoffs, are they true contenders? No, they've exceeded expectations. They're not going to be. The Washington Commanders are one of those teams that, are they true contenders? Is anybody going to be picking them to win games in the playoffs? No, but they could upset a few teams, right? They could beat one of those top 4 teams in the first round of the playoffs.
A good way to put it is I think they're an upset team.
Yeah,
but now it's turning into we were an upset team, and now maybe we're a playoff team. Maybe we're a wild card team, right?
Yeah, so if they make the wild card, then I think they could scare a division winner like a Tampa Bay or, even the Eagles or any of those division winners, really, that they could potentially say, this is a bad matchup for us. They're playing really well right now, and, they want it. So I think that could be a bad matchup for some of them. But again, I don't expect that they could beat multiple of those teams and go on a run. So I wouldn't necessarily call them contenders right now either. We're talking about the bottom of the barrel here. And even Tampa Bay, right? I did not include Tampa Bay in that conversation because Tampa Bay won. If they win the division, if they host a playoff team, say it is the Commanders, if they win that game, they are not going to win the next one. If it's the Eagles, the Vikings, the Cowboys, or the 49ers, I'm taking any of those teams over Tampa Bay no matter where the game is played at this point, even with Tom Brady in the playoffs. I'm sorry. I think those teams are that good.
I agree with you. They just haven't. They haven't.
And that's your Super Bowl pick.
I know. They really have laid an egg. I expected a lot more from the running game from Tampa Bay, and we just haven't seen that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They can't run the ball right now. Back to the Commanders real quick. They got Atlanta this weekend. That should be a good one on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Tune in to the Thanksgiving preview this week to hear our thoughts on that one. But let's move on here. Let's get to this Jets-Patriots game, which was god awful.
Wow.
All day. 3-3.
Unbelievable.
No offense. Literally no offense. Credit to Mac Jones, 23 of 27. Good job. But Zach Wilson, 9 of 22.
Oh,
75 yards. Just painful. Painful. So
And this is the second stinker against New
Right.
England, right? He had a
Yep,
good
and
game against the Bills,
both
managed a
teams
few
fall
wins.
to 6-4, right? So that's just this one meant something for the Jets too, right? This is your opportunity to pull away and say, yeah, we are going to be a playoff team this year, and we're going to push New England down in the division, right? But now you just missed your opportunity, and the NFL is all about opportunities, right? As a team, when it comes to the record and the playoff hunt and things like that. And you had the opportunity to squash the Patriots and you blew it. That's painful for the fan base. It's painful for the owner. It's painful for the GM, the head coach, the defense, because they played so well. Just painful everywhere, right?
Yeah, I mean,
the receivers, Bills fans,
Bills
Dolphins fans,
big times. Yeah,
it's just painful.
You let us all down. You let us all down.
So,
and with that kind of ending too, it wasn't even like, oh, they got blown away. It's the same old Jets. No, this is a really good Jets team, defense playmakers, and they just couldn't put it together. I feel like the Patriots are kind of this team's Achilles heel for some reason. The Jets,
14 in a row. Did I see that earlier? I think Bill Belichick's won 14 in a row versus them.
Yeah, they just can't seem to put it together, and they almost get spooked versus that team. Unlike when they played the Bills and they came out with fire in their eyes, right? And they played very well. So, I mean, I don't know what to think of this. I mean, I knew it was going to be a stinker of a game.
First question, is it fair to blame Zach Wilson for this loss? Even though special teams and all that, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't. It's certainly, I think a big chunk of the blame could go to him, right? I mean, 9 for 22. You had options. We know New England has a good defense, right? They're good. It's not going to be easy out there, but you should be able to string together some amount of plays. If you're the guy, the starting quarterback for a reason, then you should be able to string together some amount of plays to show that.
3 for 14 on third down for the Jets.
Ugly.
That's terrible. I mean, the Patriots were 4 for 15, but
yeah. So a little bit goes on the play calling, the playmakers. How many of those were drop passes or whatever? I don't know. I didn't watch much of this game, but it still falls on the quarterback to be the ultimate end all be all and do something.
I think it is fair because you couldn't get the run game going.
Yeah.
Right. The defense is playing great, and there's going to be days where you can't do what you're good at, right? Because teams key on that, and especially the Patriots defense. They're very well coached. They know what they're doing. You have to rely on other things. You have to find a way to rely on other things. And in this case, the run game is a strength for the Jets. But now we're asking our quarterback to win the game for us, right? Make a single play, and this game's over. And that's what, for a young quarterback in a sophomore season, that's almost expected at this point for a guy who was picked second overall.
Yeah, I mean? That's true. And he needs to show what I preached all season was that he just needs to show that growth. And right now he's not. He's showing a sinking, if anything, and maybe it's the injury or, coming back from that.
Sure.
He's just not been able to hit his stride and have a really good game, even though he has a really good team behind him, which is almost worse, right? That almost makes you think we need to pull the trigger and move on quicker.
I think there's a lot to be concerned here. I mean, his best game of the season was New England week 8, which he was, there was really bad interceptions and lost the game. Had a great day, minus those 3 terrible interceptions. Single-handedly lost the game, right? Outside of that, statistically, we don't see anything that really impresses you. The thing that impresses you with Zach Wilson is his physical ability, but his decision-making and things like that, playmaking ability out of the field, you just don't – it doesn't work. You know what I mean? And whatever that is that persona? Is it, playbook stuff? But this guy clearly has all the physical assets to play in the league. Maybe just some stuff upstairs. Is it leadership? Maybe. I think it's more personality stuff.
Yeah, maybe it's, coaching. Is it the quarterback's coach just not getting him prepped enough for this game to say, we know he has the talent, right? We know he has the talent.
Right.
And that rollout play should be his type of play where he's
got receivers.
And that seems to be the one where he's really throwing interceptions and making mistakes.
So the next question is, he's lost the fan base today, right? Because of what we talked about. This hurts everywhere, right? This hurts across the league. across the country because the Jets were something, and now they're the same old Jets, right? And to look at the stat line, you're like, ouch, that's just embarrassing. So most people will blame it on him, and we'll let the film guys be the film guys or girls and find out what actually went wrong. But it's just not a good look, and everyone has a sour taste in their mouth. When is it okay to say Zach Wilson's not our guy? We're going to move on.
This is one of those sneaky situations where I say you do it the right way because they're a competing team, right? You're not going to get a top 10 pick this year. You had 2 last year. You had a chance, but you already had Zach Wilson and you had to see what he was. So if even at the end of this season, you have to play it out through the season, obviously, because Joe Flacco's your backup. And I'm sorry, but he's not getting you anywhere.
He might be done after this year. You don't know when he's going to retire, right?
So exactly. So what I think the smart thing to do is bring in a very viable starting backup quarterback, right? Just much like good teams do because they rely so much on their quarterback that if that quarterback goes down, you want to have a backup with starting experience, right? So whoever that guy is, bring him in, right? And say he's the backup. Say all the right things to the media. Nope, we still believe in Zach Wilson. This is going to be his emerging year. He's looked better than ever. We can already write the headlines, right? We know what the coaches are going to say. We know what they're going to say. However, in their minds, the GM and the coach are saying, yeah, bring this guy in. Because if he starts the season like that again and he's the liability, then we're sitting his ass on the bench and we need somebody. Because the fact of the matter is you're not going to get a rookie quarterback or a young guy where you're picking in the NFL draft now if you're a competitive team. So yeah, I think that's the way to go about it. And there's going to be plenty of names out there that they should be able to find their guy that can run the system they want and give them a chance to win games. And if Zach Wilson stinks again, then you move on from him at the beginning of next season, as crazy as that sounds. That'll be when it happens.
Right. You still have 2 years on this deal, right? Mm-hmm. Draft is sophomore year or NFL sophomore year.
Yep.
You'll have the option after that. So you have to ride this one out.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean? You have to ride this one out. And there's still time in the season to save this image and all that stuff. But just not going down the way the organization wants. It's not going down the way that the coach wants. So I think we're just at that decision time where it's like, Zach, you got to play good now, or it's going to be a never kind of deal, right? They're going to bring in a Jimmy Garoppolo next year, a Tyler Heineke, like you're saying, the plan B. I think that is a viable solution or plan that they're going to consider because this team's good enough, and we know those Super Bowl windows open and close, and the Jets have drafted good over the years, and you have to see that through. Otherwise, the coach loses his job, GM loses his job, and you're back in a rebuild. And now you're back into that playoff drought conversation. It's like you don't want to add years to that. You know what I mean? So
exactly. And again, you say all the right things in the media, and you give Zach Wilson one more off season to figure it out. And if he doesn't, then the next guy is ready 3 games into the season.
But you're so close to breaking that drought now.
Yeah,
it's there. It's right there.
But you can't do anything about it. You have no other options right now. You're not going to sign a guy off the street, and Joe Flacco just isn't going to get it done. I mean, he won a game for them early in the season, but that was more of a fluke kind of thing. The one game he's going to win, he already won. So that's over.
Yeah, the Jets got Chicago next week, Minnesota, and then the Bills. It's going to get tougher for Zach Wilson.
Yep. Tough defense.
But yeah, just you hate to see it. Yeah, but this happens all the time with young quarterbacks. They lose their confidence, and it just gets ugly from there. So hopefully we see some bounce back because I do like Zach Wilson's game. Like I've said a million times, it's all there. He scares you when you play him, right? If he's playing your team, you're a little nervous. But the way he's been playing lately is just not putting it all together, right? Expected a lot more. All right, let's finish it up here. We have a couple games to go through. How about the Thursday night game that we didn't get to talk about yet? The Titans at the Packers.
Told you so, Eric.
Yep. Titans.
That's all.
Titans look good. Like they play their style.
They're the better team. Yeah.
9 for 10 in the first couple drives for Ryan Tannehill. The the Titans quarterbacks throw the ball away so fast. It cracks me up. They're one read and throw it away.
Yeah, that's all they need to
they don't take
do.
any chances
Hand it
there.
off on the next play.
Yeah, and it works. It's working for them, right?
It is. It is. They
Is
play
that
good
going to work
defense.
versus Kansas City? Probably not. But
Titans played very well on defense again, despite their deficiencies in some positions at cornerback, and it paid off in this game. It looked like early on that maybe the Packers had some life with Watson again, and then but it didn't follow through. And that's ultimately it comes down to who's the better team, and that's why I picked the Titans coming into it, because they have the better roster, they're playing better, just overall better. Packers look like the Packers have all season in this game.
I think it's fair to write them off, but I do like Christian Watson, and he had another great game that night. I mean,
You did
6'5" and 4.3 speed. It's different. He jumped over a guy in the end zone. It's that special ability, but like we've been talking about with Zach Wilson, you got to put it all together. There's a lot more to the game than just athleticism, right?
You got to have other people next to him too.
But at the receiver position, certainly looks good so far. Right, a lot less mentally for receiver over quarterback. All right, next game here we got the Bears 24 at the Falcons. Falcons squeeze this one out.
Wow,
this seems to be the Bears' new mantra, right?
I know.
We're gonna play everyone tough but lose.
Yeah, right? Lead the game, go all the way to the end of the game, and then find a way to lose. Yeah, it sucked for the Bears, but good win for the Falcons. I had this going the other way in the same thing, the 3-point spread, but I thought maybe the Bears would win by 3 or 4, and Falcons were able to pull it out, and it's a big win for them. It keeps them in contention. Bears, it kind of makes them fall flat now. They're not really in the conversation anymore.
Right,
but their offense has shown life, which I think is what they needed to do this year overall this season. Nobody thought the Bears were going to be a team to make a run.
Right, and their quarterback can run the football, that we know. They're the number one rushing offense in the league, and 4th in touchdowns in rushing. So they have some skills there. Bears are not the old easy win that they used to be. Say that. All right, Rams at Saints. Rams lose this one by 7, 20-27. Andy Dalton. Couple nice throws. Couple TDs there, but I don't think we're going to see Jameis Winston.
I don't think so either. It seems that he has officially been benched now. He did come out with some statement or questions from the media. He said that I lost my job due to injury, which isn't supposed to happen. And, Andy Dalton's doing okay. Yeah. I think it was just today that article came out, or that came out. But yeah, tough for Jameis Winston. But I feel for the guy.
Well, why is he?
I feel for the guy because I don't feel like Andy Dalton has done anything better.
That's what I was just going to say. Why is Jameis Winston benched? You have nothing to lose. This team has 3 wins, 4 wins.
I don't understand it either. So, I mean, I don't get it. I would put him back in, and we've said this for multiple weeks. So the Saints, they pull off the win here facing another team. I know we joked that this is 2 bad teams. One of them's got to come out with a win, and that team should have been the Saints, and it was ultimately the Saints, given the status of the Rams right now. Rams season is over at this point as well. And the Saints stay alive, keep themselves alive, at least in the conversation.
Right. The Rams, I don't know what happened to them, but 16.8 points per game, 4th worst in the league, 29th. What happened? I don't understand. Is the Super Bowl hangover that bad, like that much? They can't run the football.
The roster hangover. It was more of a fluke that they won the Super Bowl doing it the way they did. Not saying that their roster shouldn't have won or that the team wasn't good enough to win. The way that they built that team was give up everything to get the guys we need to win one. They won one, and now they're falling apart at the seams because they have no depth. They have no way of recouping that depth. No draft picks, no salary cap.
You consistently hear of retirement rumors in LA with the Rams too.
Yeah,
we've heard Sean McVay might retire. We've heard Aaron Donald might retire. There's a new one out today that Stafford's going to retire. I mean, what is going on out there? Bizarre to me.
Good life out there at the beach, especially after you've already gotten a ring on your finger, right? So
and they play the West Coast. They're laid back, right?
They play Kansas City next week. It's going to be rough.
Eesh. All right, next one here. We got the Browns and Bills. Bills win 31-23. neutral field. They played in Detroit. The Bills here basically didn't practice all week, but still come out. Very, very rough start for the Bills, but get it together in the second half. Ran the football pretty effectively. Which,
Wow, yeah, ran the ball. The Bills ran the ball. Wow, yes, they did.
Yeah.
They did very well in this game. At least able to hold their own. I was not happy with it as a Bills fan. I'll say that. It was still not the performance you need to kind of rebound from. You got the win.
I need one
That's all that
example of a
matters.
time you were happy watching a Bills game. One example.
Shoot, the Rams game, like the first 4 weeks of the season, Eric. We were riding that high.
Yeah.
But this, I mean, especially at the end of the game, one of the things that bothers me that I know I texted you and Sterling about was the boneheaded plays. It's football. You have to know your role as a football player on the field. The coach should not have to look you in the eye and say, this is what you're doing on this play. And especially if your role is on special teams on an onside kick. They're onside kicking it. If the ball goes in the air, you don't try to catch the ball. You bat the ball out of bounds. You never tried it. There is zero case for trying to touch the ball. Punch it out of bounds. That's all you need to do. Whack it out of bounds, jump and throw it out of bounds, drop kick it out of bounds, hit it with your ass cheeks out of bounds. I don't care. You push that ball out of bounds. He jumps. He tries to go for the ball. It ends up being a live ball because he caught it, and then somebody else knocked it loose.
You think your wide receiver could catch it, though?
I don't give a
catch it. You're wide receiver. That's why you're there.
Yes, but it's the same thing with the play last week where Jefferson caught that amazing catch, right? He never should have had a chance to catch that. The only reason he caught it was because the defender, granted he's like a fourth-string cornerback on the team, catches the ball, tries to catch the ball. No, it's fourth down. You catch the ball, you've lost 30 yards. Just hit it out of bounds. You should not have to be told what to do in that situation. I get that there's instincts, but you are a football player. If your mind can't stay straight to tell you what you're supposed to do on that play, then get off my football field. I don't want you on my team because that's the job. So, I mean, it was frustrating that last play. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the full context, Browns march down the field, score a touchdown in garbage time.
There was a whole football game before that play, by the way.
Browns, the Bills had a comfortable lead, but they let the Browns come down and score basically because of the time. Then if the Browns had onside kicked it and got it back, they would have been able to score a touchdown to tie the game. And so it was a meaningful onside kick. And yet the Bills played it wrong. Luckily, they got lucky, and still the ball went out of bounds eventually, even though it was a live ball for a while. And the Bills got it and just downed the ball, and the game was over.
Yeah.
But the point is, you got to play better football, because when you play good teams, the game is going to be tight. That play is going to matter. And it did last week when it went the other way, on that Jefferson catch. So very concerning thing.
That sounds a little bit like paranoia to you.
Very concerning that these players need to be told what to do. And that a fan who's not a coach or a player or anything, knows more about what they're supposed to do than apparently they do on the play. That is not good football. Not at all. That's a horrible look for them. And I'm sure Sean McDermott is well aware of that and is saying, okay, guys, what do we need to go over here? Because back to X's and O's.
Garbage touchdowns.
And like you said, the first half was just miserable, but I did chalk that up to you're not practicing, you're not on your own field.
To get a win at a neutral place after a week like that, that's always a victory.
Yes,
right?
And thank God it was against the Browns, because the big changing factor in this game was that turnover.
I saw a tweet that said the Browns are must-watch TV from 1 o'clock to 1:10. So it must be
an
ongoing thing for the Browns. But the Bills going to be okay.
Yes.
They're only behind Kansas City in average points per drive.
This Thursday night?
Points per game. Number 2, but red zone down 23rd in red zone percentage. But yeah, I think the Bills are going to be out just fine.
Yeah, they will be. But the big thing is now they play the Lions on Thanksgiving, and the Lions are red hot right now. Red hot.
Nice lead in. I was going to mention real quick before we lead in, because that was perfect. Deshaun Watson comes back for Cleveland week 13 versus Texans, right? So, there's hope coming, but the season has really gotten away from them. Not great. Oh, yeah, Lions, 3 in a row, and they go and they beat a top AFC or NFC team, right? Giants were 7-2, riding high, miracle after miracle. Well, the Lions punched him in the mouth on this one. Do you think it exposed them a little, or the Lions just good getting their players back? DeAndre Swift's back.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, right? They have all their playmakers. And I think if you looked at just the rosters and knowing these players on both of these teams, you might even give the Lions the edge coming in without knowing their records, just their rosters and who's there and what's the situation. You would probably give the Lions a bit of an edge coming into this blindly. The Giants come in with a better record, come in hotter. Obviously, they're at the top. Like you said, the Lions were dealing with a ton of injuries this season, but they got their main guys back. And when that happened, they played dominant football, right? I mean, they dominated the Giants, really. It wasn't until the fourth quarter that the Giants were able to even muster much together. So it was really, really all Lions all day here. And the kind of performance you expected them to put together at some point. Their defense has really struggled this year, but their offense has clicked. Their run game is amazing. They've got their playmaker in Amon-Ra St. Brown back in the pass game.
He's a real one for sure.
DeAndre Swift and oh my gosh, the other Jamal Williams. Yep, thank you. Yep. Who is the running back who had 3 touchdowns in this game. I mean, they have multiple things that they can throw at you, which is a good place to be, and limiting Jared Goff's performance, right? You don't want the game to be on the shoulders of Jared Goff. It wasn't in this one, and that's why they won handedly and were able to play their game. Their defense played very well against the Giants, but I think it was more the Giants looking like we'd expect the Giants to look. Pathetic. I mean, they've got bad with their receiver depth, their tight end depth, their pass catchers in general.
The Giants is when the game gets to a certain level of score,
exactly,
they can no longer compete, right? They have to play good defense and keep the other team from scoring to win. But that's been working for them. But there's going to be a couple games
young pieces, right? They got good young pieces, but they can't really compete when they're down like that, and that's part of the problem. Daniel Jones had 341 yards, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions, which is not the stat line you want to have, obviously, but it just wasn't enough, and it was more the yards are there because they were down big. They had no choice but to keep slinging the ball around. And overall, this was basically the Giants that I expected to see from the beginning of the season, and maybe even more so the Lions I expected to see. So Lions coming in red hot to their Thursday Thanksgiving Day game with the Bills coming into town. It's going to be an exciting game. I think it's not going to be an easy win.
A tradition from 1920, right? The Lions playing on Thanksgiving. They have a losing record on Thanksgiving, 37-42.
Makes sense because they've been horrible for a number of years now. Yeah.
But do they have a chance to beat the Bills? What do you think?
Yes. What do you mean do they have a chance to beat the Bills? I just said the Bills didn't come out and say they did not have some kind of dominant performance versus the Browns where it was like the Bills are the best team in football again, right? No, it was more like, okay, they're back. They got back on track. They did what they needed to do. But the Lions are the team that is progressing in the right direction. They have their home field advantage. They're playing on their turf. Granted, we just played there too. They're playing on all cylinders. They've got nothing to lose, whereas the Bills need to win the game really to stay in contention for that number 1 seed and the division. I mean, it's a meaningful win, and certainly I give Detroit a lot more credit right now than I did at the beginning of the season about how they could perform and could win on the Thanksgiving Day game.
Right, and the Lions, they have the Bills Thursday, Jaguars after that, and then the Vikings. If they win all 3, they'd have a winning record. If they win 2 of 3, let's see, they'd be down by 1, but they're 2 games from 500 is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, pretty big game for the Lions. Whose home is this? Like, isn't it the Bills playing in Detroit for the second week in a row?
They're comfortable there.
Yeah.
Man, I tell you what, watching Tyler Bass kick in that stadium is fun because it was dead center every single time.
Good point.
He's like, no wind, bam, dead center from 60.
Yeah.
Bam,
the kid's pretty consistent.
Yeah.
They definitely hit on that pick with Tyler Bass. But like what the Lions are doing, even if they lose to the Bills, they're still, I think, a good team heading in the right direction.
Sure. Exactly.
If they beat the Bills, then okay, they've arrived.
That'd be tough.
All right. Next one, Raiders, Broncos.
Burner.
Overtime game, and Devonta Adams, best player on the field, and he acted like it in the big moments. I don't know. I don't
the
even
biggest shocker in this game The Broncos scored more than 10 points.
Yeah, I was going to say something like that.
And they mustered 16.
Well,
2
Russell
extra
Wilson
field
had a
goals
decent day. Probably his best game of the year. Right?
because he didn't have a turnover.
Well, I
I
think
don't
he
think
threw for
a
200
touch.
yards.
247 yards, no touchdowns. That's
I mean,
that's
okay.
absolutely pathetic if that's a good
We
game
can touch
for you.
on this, though. It's
You're
like,
a $50 million quarterback. You get you pass for 240 yards. You want a round of applause?
I was pretty low on the Broncos as a contender this year, but I did not expect them to be this bad. Worst team in the league on offense. No one saw that coming, right?
Yes, I would agree there.
But yeah, I guess Russell Wilson has had better games this season.
Yeah. Derek Carr, you could argue, was his best game. 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers, the 2 big plays to Devontae Adams, including the game winner. Adams finally emerging. Yeah, it's not his fault the team has lost, but Adams making the plays he needed to in this game to give them a win over a divisional opponent. So that makes you feel good, but you're still 3-7. Both of these teams are now 3-7. Their seasons are going nowhere.
Right.
Fast.
And Melvin Gordon gets cut. You know, the injuries to Javonte Williams at running back. So I think they're really lacking a run game in Denver, and that's hurting them.
Yes.
And Russell Wilson has been nothing special. Like,
certainly.
Whether you want to blame it on the play calling, that's fine. But I mean, I watched Russell Wilson in Seattle a ton, mostly because he's a West Coast player. They always play later, so you watch them after the 4:00 games or the late games. And he's always been a playmaker, making things happen, a magician, whatever you want to say. I just don't see that magic at all. Zero. Not one play. I just don't understand. I guess it's coaching. I guess it's system.
You said he was calling Seattle play.
Yeah, I mean, that was a rumor. He's calling Seattle protections and the Denver offense. You're like, okay, all right, this is what we're doing now.
Nobody's.
No wonder half the offensive line doesn't know what right people, right? So yeah. And last game of the night here, he's done. Bengals 37, Steelers 30. I was impressed with Kenny Pickett. I think he played pretty well. For the circumstance, right? This is the defending AFC Super Bowl, representative or chant. What do you say? What do you call it? The runner-up to the Lombardi Trophy. There we go. So they're in your division, and the Bengals are good. The Bengals actually they played well in this one. I think most other days the Steelers would have pulled out this win, but the Bengals really stepped up on defense, made the plays they needed to make, and they actually looked really good.
Yeah, this was just a case of the Steelers just aren't good enough yet, right? If they were a little bit more experienced, a little bit better, a little bit healthier, maybe they could have pulled out a victory here. But really, if you watch the game, the Bengals maintained control throughout the game. There was never a moment where you're like, oh, the Steelers are going to take control here. They maintained control. It was closer than they liked. They should have scored a few more points, made a few less mistakes to keep the Steelers in it. But the Bengals did what they had to do against the divisional opponent. Again, we always talk about how tough that is, and pulled out the win in the end. And the Steelers, again, I think if they just had a little more experience, they could have gotten another touchdown off a mistake there. And one of those drives where they had to punt off one of the turnovers. It was, those are the difference in this game. Obviously, only a 7-point game. So, Steelers, good performance by them, even in a loss. I don't think they're competing for anything other than morale at this point, and to say they beat the divisional opponent. So another team that's stuck with 3 wins.
Yeah, and gonna have to draft an offensive lineman so they can run the football next year.
Yeah,
that should be the focus for the Bengals. They slide into that 7 seed in the wild card, right behind New England and Buffalo. And then we have a division winners unchanged from last week: Kansas City, Miami, Tennessee, and the Ravens. And the Bengals, they're going to get Jamar Chase back. They're going to get better. Really, Joe Mixon down with a concussion. We'll see how long he's out for, but that definitely hurts them. P. Ryan, their backup running back, is not the same type of player as Joe Mixon.
Not running the ball, but he's a pass catching guy.
Sure.
So, I mean, he caught
Joe Mixon's different.
2 touchdowns in this game.
Joe Mixon's he can touch the ball on every play, right?
3 touchdowns. He did have 3 touchdowns.
I think the passing game opens that up some, but can you rely on them consistently week in, week out? Let me take a look at their schedule, because they're gonna be in some big games to get into the playoffs, right? Baltimore has a secure lead on the division, right? So they're gonna have to be scratching with these
Mhm.
AFC East teams to get in. They got Tennessee this week, which is huge. Then they have Kansas City, and then we have the Browns, the Buccaneers, Patriots, Bills, Ravens. So it's going to be a battle for
It's
the
tough
Bengals, and
schedule.
they're going to need Jamar Chase back ASAP, and hopefully Joe Mixon comes back quick.
Yeah.
So if those things happen, I think the Bengals are surely a playoff team here. It's really between them and the Chargers, right?
I think so, and they're better than the Chargers. So that's why, I mean, I fully expect them to be in the playoffs as that last playoff.
Chargers might have the easier schedule, and then the Jets are still in that conversation as well. But these AFC East teams have to play each other, right? That's coming up. I think after this week, the Bills play Thanksgiving. They have 3 AFC East opponents in a row, starting with New England Thursday night next week. So that's going to help out the Bengals and the Chargers. And we'll see. That's going to be kind of fun, right? Those games are very important. Most important games of the whole AFC so far, right?
Agreed.
Okay, anything
Those
to
divisional
add?
matchups. I don't know. It was, I think we went through it. A couple of surprises, but mostly expected what was supposed to happen kind of week. Thanksgiving week is always fun. Football on Thanksgiving is the best. 3 big Thursday games instead of the 1. So, we'll have to prepare likewise. And I'm guessing at least
Bills,
one will be in my pick 6.
Bills Lions at 12:30. Then you got the Giants Cowboys at 4:30, and Patriots Vikings at 8:20. All good matchups. Which one's the best? Do you think? Like legitimately, I think Giants Cowboys.
Giants Cowboys is certainly the most. They're both winning teams right now. They're both playoff teams right now. They both have a lot to prove. I think the Cowboys will win it handedly. So I don't think it's going to be the most entertaining game. I'm actually looking forward. Obviously, the Bills game is the one we're going to watch the most. But that Patriots Vikings game, Patriots in the playoffs right now, right? They're competing. Vikings need to bounce back from that tough loss. Can the Patriots put any kind of offense together? I think, the Vikings win that game as well, but it's still going to be a fun one to watch just because it's Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots versus one of the top teams in the NFC. So, I mean, I guess I'm giving the edge to the Bills Lions now that the Lions have won 3 in a row and the Bills have looked human in the NFL. It's probably going to be one of the tightest matchups of the day, actually.
Yeah, fair. I think the Lions are going to bring it, right? And that should be fun. But Patriots always fun to watch. First year head coach versus Bill Belichick, the late game. So should be entertaining. Always is. Thanks for tuning in with us. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for following us. For those of you who gave us feedback, appreciate that. Be sure to check us out on Twitter. Check us out every Monday and normally Thursday, Thanksgiving this week. Likely be on Wednesday this week. And then we'll see you as we head into week 12.
That's right. And remember, toss your hat in the ring.